waking up and connecting with us this morning here on the Mastermind call with the Dream Makers Network. Just truly a blessing to have another opportunity to connect with all of you and to be able to say we've gotten through the first month of the year, as there's so many who did not. And we are counted in the land of the living and being an opportunity to do this again, to have this call again, to be in an opportunity to share and connect and hear. And if you're here for the first time, we welcome you. We appreciate you joining us early. And if you're listening to this later, we thank you for spending time to connect with us here with the Mastermind call with the Dream Makers Network. My name is Byron Deese, and we have hosted this call for 12 years, about 12 and a half years, and since 2012, and for the purposes of personal development. And we're really, at its core, trying to interrupt people's lives, if you will, to think a bit more about what we're doing and why. Why are we doing what we do? And is there more that we want to do that we're not doing? And just begin to have kind of a very interpersonal dialogue with ourselves to really begin the process of tapping into what is our objective here during the time that we have. It is a question that, I think that most people have, or at some point in time of their lives, they've thought about, what is my purpose? Why am I here? We've been hosting this call for 12 years, and I think back to prior to us starting this network and, where things were in my life and where things were with the other founders of this network, and we were all just young men, preparing to, start new lives, raising children, starting businesses and, being professionals at what we do. And it was a time of great questions, if you will, and looking for mentors and examples. It was one of those periods where we, weren't quite sure, but we were thirsty for the information, willing to hear, very teachable and coachable at that point in time, because, for what we were attempting to do, and we didn't know it at the time, but what we were looking for, there weren't a lot of examples. So you had to dig. You couldn't just kind of stay surface, have these questions, but not be willing to pursue the information. And thank God we were willing to pursue. Thank God for that eagerness of development and objective. It's when I think back on, that time period, a lot of times we begin to measure where we are in life based on financial status and what's going on in your personal life, and things like that. But I would say that at that point in time, and I think I was, I may have been like 31 or 32, something like that. That it's equivalent to finding a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because we tapped into something that has created much riches and wealth, and not just monetary, but from a mindset and spirit perspective. The whole purpose of personal development, begins to unlock all that is available, from things that we already have learned but didn't fully understand, and that's an important part, because, we've heard things, we've heard information. And there were times, even when I grew up in the church, And a lot of times when you're a kid reading the Bible and you're hearing this language that sounds foreign, if you will, but that those words were being sowed into my mindset early, but it didn't fully resonate until I was able to start searching for myself and was able to unlock a lot of those early seeds that were sown that were biblical. But then being able to watch people apply their goals and ambitions into practice and watch it happen and watch those a lot of those scriptures just become realized in front of my face, and said, if they can do it, I can do it. If this man can live a great life, I can live a great life. And if this person can apply faith to their life, I can apply faith. And so it wasn't theory anymore, but it became practice. It became practice. It became part of the lifestyle. And I'll just tell you, to go through that process now with starting this network and having a continuous objective of learning and reading and listening and networking and building continuously for the past 12 plus years. It is, it's life-changing stuff, and it will carry us throughout the rest of our lives, regardless of what happens. Those seeds are part of our knowingness now, and we will be able to use it through good and bad times to come. And for the purposes of this call and this mastermind call, the objective is to continue to create that type of space where folks can feel comfortable coming together, sharing, connecting, asking, teaching. There's so many people, when like-minded people come together in the spirit of harmony with the objective of personal development, and having that be the core of our objective and reasons for coming together. Great things are just willing to happen. It's there. And there's so much to share. But I'm just thankful for you, for allowing us to share with you. Thankful for the network. Thankful for all of the pieces that begin to get organized, if you will, and put us in a position to continue to grow, to continue to pursue investment in other people's lives, and building things that can truly add value to other folks who may need it, and be about that work until our last day, and hope that even after our last day, that the momentum and the objective continues, and just being in the spirit of growth. And so thank you so much. Truly, truly appreciate all of you. And we look forward and hope to hear from you today on today's call. Well, I tell you, we have gone through and completed the first month of the year, as today is February 1st, and we are into the second month of the year. And it is a very, I think for this call, to be completely honest with you, I've been thinking a lot about this call for the past, definitely for the past 2 weeks. I've been thinking a lot about this call for the past 2 weeks. And just to be completely frank and honest, this is, in this country, we're going through a restructure. And it's happening before our eyes. And, and for folks who don't, who kind of just are folks who live on the surface, if you will, or, who don't connect history to the present, then this may just seem like a non-issue, and let's just keep going. But we are clearly going through a a restructure in this country, where through our politics, and it can create fear for folks. Some folks aren't even paying attention, and so it's like it's another day, if you will. But for the folks who are paying attention, and the folks who feel led to do something, and the folks who are excited, about this restructure, this is, a time that for some people it's a crisis, and for some people it's a holiday. So, but I want to make sure that I always think about what Winston Churchill said, and I think it was Rahm Emanuel who picked it up during the Obama administration. That you never let a crisis go to waste. You never let a crisis go to waste and regardless of what that crisis moment is. It could be a family crisis, and something horrible is happening. Everyone in the family is, their spirits and their energies are heightened, and the norm has been interrupted. That can be a moment to wallow in whatever the crisis is, and just become, a subject of the crisis, if you will, or it is a time to create. And, when you create, it is a time to say you're either creating something to essentially attempt to solve the problem. And some people skip past solving or creating something to solve the problem, and they go into growth mode because a void has happened. Something that was there is no longer there, and there is a natural, objective to fill the void. And so what are you filling the void with? What are you creating in this moment? What are you creating in the moment of crisis? And and it's a point of, the fact is, during crisis moments, it is the best time to create. I've seen it happen so many times. The folks who are able to control their emotions in a way to create versus wallowing in the crisis. And that's not saying, that we're not human and have these natural, real emotions. I think you should carry that and use that as fuel to help with the building process of whatever it is that you're creating. And I want us today to talk a little bit about creating excellent seed. Creating excellent seed. And and the real reason why we do this is because, it's those examples where some people just wait around for the crisis to really get bad, to where it's such a deal that, not to say there's never, not to say that there's ever a time, that period that's too late, but sometimes it's too late. So, and we have to, and let's just say, we talk about this a lot on this call, that when we can identify our purpose by highlighting the things that make us excited and happy, and the things that make us mad and pissed off. Those are the two areas where you can quickly identify with what your purpose is in this life, because you have natural energy for it. Whether that energy is excitement and something that you're just fired up to go out and do, and you're happy about doing it, and you got a lot of energy to try to continue to make it right and keep it going, or that energy that makes you ready to fight. because the energy that makes you happy and excited and that makes you ready to fight is not the same. Everybody doesn't always feel the same way. I mean, wow, what you upset about? Or what are you excited about? Like, why are you so excited? I'm here with you. I've been standing here next to you the whole time. I hadn't gotten excited yet, because that is for you and not them. Your things that get them fired up, and that lines up with their purpose and their natural energy to go out and create and be purposeful in this life. But what's for you is for you. And when we have these moments, it's important to know, number one, that's what it is, and then how to use it, what to do next, how to go to work, and how to build something that not only will give you an opportunity to satisfy, and accomplish the things that are burning at you in this moment. But more than likely, you won't be the only person who is happy that whatever you created was created. That's the point. This is how we see so many great organizations built, great ministries built, great businesses built. So much is created during that time period. And I want to make sure that for the purposes of this call, that we are willing, because I'm not under the belief that people don't get excited or mad about stuff. I know that happens. So that part I know happens. The part that I don't know is, are you willing to do something about it? Are you willing to create? And if you are willing to create, then we may as well create something that's excellent. Create something that is excellent. And create something that you can identify as seed. And I want to, and I think that this is not a one call conversation. This is something that we definitely should, at least for the next quarter, take time to develop, if you will, because we're in that season of life where transition is happening, restructure is happening, voids will be created. Things that were there before will not be there. What's going to replace it? And here's the point. When voids happen, somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to come in with something else, another option, and why not you? And it's not just going to happen in one area. It's going to be across the board, so that preparation mindset of, here's what we are used to. Here's how long this kind of thing has been around. Here's what happened that was a part of that transition. Here's the new void that is not, that was lost in the transition. So now that void is there. Who's going to fill the void? And what are you filling it with? And is what you're filling it with excellent seed? I want to get the term excellent seed really into our mindset, and begin the process of using that term more often. Excellent seed. And the two things about that word, that phrase, if you will, is, number one, excellent. And excellent means that we are something that is above average, something that is at the top of the top, something that is of extreme value. And seed is important because when you sow a seed, you are doing it of growth. Sowing a seed and expecting to never see it again. You're sowing seeds for the purpose of growth. And so if we're sowing excellent seed, We're creating excellency and sowing it. There's one thing to create something, but you never sow it, but we want to create excellency and then sow that seed for the purpose of growth, of something that will become plentiful for others, not just yourself, but that other people can truly benefit from, particularly because we're filling a void. And so I can tell you, the first time I ever heard the term, and this is a good connection relative to, there were a lot of things that I heard as a kid growing up in the church that was, ingrained in my brain, but I didn't fully understand it because of the biblical language wasn't, always the kind of language that I heard growing up and just talking to people. So it took time for it to make sense, or it took a good messenger to make it make sense. And around the time when we started this network, and possibly right afterwards, it's probably one of those first bits of information that I got access to after we said, let's get this thing rolling, was the great Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn, one of the most, I'd say, just one of the best communicators of all time. And he passed away in 2009, 79 years of life, but he packed in that time period just loads of information, loads of resources and I didn't even, so just connect the dots here, and this is worth highlighting. It was 2012 or 13 when I had even come across his information. And by that time, he'd already passed away 3 or 4 years. And I want to highlight the reason why that's important. Because a lot of times when we think about this life, we think about life in a finite way. We think that life ends when we give our last breath. Life ends there. But this is a classic example of life was given to me and others who've gotten access to this man's information years after he's passed away. I could have this conversation with someone today who's never heard of Jim Rohn. And it's been, over 20 years, I guess now. No, not 20, but yeah. So he 17, 18 years or so. Funny math in the morning. But they now got access to the information and could start something fresh. So and I only bring that up because I always, I think about a relay race, and when you're running your race as fast as you can, and then you hand off the baton, the fact that now if that person drops the baton, then it's over, right? Whatever you were doing, all the momentum you were building, it matters nothing because the person dropped the baton. Or you chose not to even pass the baton and just want to keep running and then until you couldn't run no more, right? That kind of thing has a finite end. But if you effectively pass the baton and the other person catches the baton or grabs the baton and starts running at their best, your life continues. You may be physically not holding that baton anymore, but your life continues because they picked up the baton and kept rolling and gave it their all. And then they hand it to somebody else. Now your life and their life. And just to connect those dots, again, Jim Rohn provided all of his tapes and all of his, videos, information about his life, but he also talked about his mentor, Earl Shove, who taught him that information. And he also talked about his mentor, Earl Nightingale, who taught him that information. And I think it's important. And we could go one step further to say, where did Earl get the information? From Napoleon Hill. Where did Napoleon get the information? From Andrew Carnegie. And we can just keep this thing going as it relates to passing the baton and running as strong as you can during your time. And it creates the legacy of work because you're passing excellent seed. So I'm kind of going through this process, but I'll tell you, I have not been this excited in a long time about this particular topic on creating excellent seed and having the mindset to create excellent seed with the purpose of growth and legacy. Excellent seed with the purpose of growth and legacy. And because once you are thinking from a legacy perspective, that you're going to, or whatever you're building will inspire someone to get in the game with you, will influence someone's life in a way that they want to see it happen also, and keep it going. And it's time to build something that is worth value bigger than just you and your family. And particularly because of the transition and the restructure that we're going through right now in this country, that voids will be created, and somebody has to fill the void. And this is that time to prepare and to take a look in our hand and say, what is the seed that I have in my hand that I need to make excellent? That I need, before I sow it, I need to make the seed that I have in my hand excellent. And then I sow it with the intention of growth and legacy. And so I just wanted to frame that, before even diving into all of this, because it's worth us being in a position to really think about what we have in our hand. And when I say what we have in our hand, we think about the reasons why we have goals. We think about the things that we're working on right now. We think about the things that are in our mind that we haven't applied yet. It's there, it's in our mind, it's in our spirit, but we haven't realized it yet. We haven't taken it from mind to paper, and then from paper to process, and then from process to the market, and so we haven't done that yet. But in the spirit of creating excellent seed, I want to make sure that we get this early part right, because, at least for the folks I know who are on this call and who are part of this network, I trust your natural objectives to know that whatever seed that you are sowing right now is good seed, and it will be of benefit to people who get access to it. So I know that. But where I am going is, do we have the capacity and the willingness to create excellent seed? Are we willing to do that? Are we willing to take what we already have, whether it be practical things that we're currently doing or the things that is in our mind and spirit? Do we have the capacity, and are we willing to make it excellent and be in the spirit of taking advantage of never letting the crisis go to waste, and providing a resource that can add value to not only your life, but the lives of other people? And so I really wanted to open up with that before diving into this topic of excellent seed. And again, this isn't a one call topic. This is something that and I'll just be clear, as we highlight, this is an area for me personally that is something we have to get right. And the delay is there's actually no time for delay. we're at that stage. I would say anything leading up to not doing it prior to now was the delay. Now we're in it. The iron is hot. The voids are getting ready to be created, and now is the time to bring excellent seed to fill the void. And so I want to take a second before we open up the call to kind of talk a little bit about this scripture that, again, I've heard so many times. And for anybody who's ever gone to church, even as a little kid, you've heard these scriptures. You've heard them. It's been in your mind. It's in your spirit. But now these are those times when it's time to take those things that you've heard over the years and put it to practice. And so I want to read Matthew 13, which is the parable of the sower. The parable of the sower. And again, I'm sure you guys have heard this so many times in your life, but I want to take a second and read it and have it make sense to what we're talking about right now, and the purpose of creating excellent seed and being in that development process. And so the parable of the sower, Matthew 13, and starting at the first verse. On the same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the sea, and great multitudes were gathered together to him, so he got into the boat and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. He then spoke many things to them in parables, saying, "Behold, a sower went out to sow, and put my glasses on. A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some of the seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured it. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and immediately sprang up because they had no depth in the earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because of that, they had no root, it withered and died. And some fell on thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some of 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let them hear. He who has ears to hear, let them hear." The parable of the sower. I will tell you, I've always kind of liked that scripture, but 12 years ago, when I heard Jim Rohn talk about the parable of the sower, it took on a whole new life for me. And I can be honest with you and tell you, it was a perfect time when I heard that, when I heard Jim Rohn give it. It was the year that I started into business development, particularly working in business development and sales on my side. And it was just a classic scripture for someone who may be a little nervous about sharing good seed, if you will, maybe a little nervous about talking to people, and selling a product or service. And it brought very clean context to what happens. It really highlights I remember I just thought about this. I remember I gave the video. I don't know, I guess it was CDs at that time. I gave the CD to my boss at that time. And he was like, man, this is the best thing ever. I'm going to make sure everybody in the office hears this. And he picked up really quickly that it was about working the law of large numbers. Get out there and talk to as many people as possible because you got something good to share. And some people are going to hear you and ignore you. And why did they ignore you? Because the birds got it. They were distracted by something else. And you just let that happen and you keep going, because if you're working the law of large numbers, you're going to create an average. You can talk to 10 people, and 10 people, of that 10, 3 or 4 may be the ones who actually said, I'm here, man. I love what you're saying. I love what you're doing. Let's go. Like, I'm in. But those other 6 or 7 people, they're going to go through all of the, oh, I can't come today, or I don't like your product, or, I like it, but I still doing the other thing, or yes, I'm all in, and they never show up, or whatever the case, And so the part of that is, the crazy part that Jim Rohn said, well, listen, you just let them do that. Let them do all of that. And you focus on the excellent seed. You focus on sharing a story. You focus on building what you're building. And don't be distracted by what other people are saying about your plight and what you're building. And we have to be very, I don't want to use the word protective, but we have to be very clear on this, because, this is stuff that I even tell Madison, my daughter. I was like, hey, not everybody, there was a whole lot of kids at your school. So thousands of students there. Not all of these people are your friends, and they're not supposed to be, right? But you can spread your energy on all of them, and it's going to attract. People will become attracted to you, and that's cool. But you have to be focused on your excellent seed. Focus on sharing the energy that you're putting out there, and let them see what happens. Maybe some of them will become close friends, and rightfully so, if they have like-minded energy. But other people may just be out, they've never seen anything like you before. So they may just want to get rid of you because it's anti to their own self-esteem. It's like, well, why is she talking like that? And why is she doing it that way? And why is she talking to the teacher? And why is she good at that? You know what, man? I just want her out of my energy, and I'm going to make up something about her. And just so people can stop saying she's cool, and that is part of it. It doesn't just happen in grade school. It happens in life. People see competition and just like, oh, I got to get rid of this cat. That's just the real. But, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, we're doing a lot of it already, and just beaming positive energy and beaming intentionality and beaming the willingness and the work and the nonstop focus and consistency. That's the part, right? People see consistency like, yikes, they're still doing that? Hey, I figured he was kind of a one-off, especially people who are, kind of scatterbrained and they're not used to doing something in perpetuity, right? Just like, just continuously building. And that throws a lot of, because it makes them think about themselves. Like, wow, why am I not doing this then? You know what I'm saying? It's like, instead of, I don't want to think about that. I just want to think about the fact that I don't like that he's over there doing it. And that becomes their attention, and that part we're already doing. But for what I'm talking about now, and I'm definitely eager to hear from you guys, it's this whole topic and focus on excellent seed. it is an ask and a request for us to take what we're doing, take our current goals, focus, intentions to a new plane, to a new level, to the place that your brain hadn't even come up with yet. Like, we talk a lot about doing things that we know and understand. But what about the things that would be beneficial to us that we don't know? We definitely don't understand it because we don't even know it. But it's out there. It's out there right now. And if we had access to it, it would add great value to what we are building, what our spirit is calling for. This excellent seed conversation. How to be in a position to prepare yourself to access all those things that you truly need, you don't even know exist yet, but you're putting yourself in a position to access it. That's where we want to get our mindset and get our energies and our thoughts prepared for that, to begin to access the information that you truly, truly need, or the people who you truly, truly need, but you don't know these folks. You don't know where it is. You don't know who they are, but you're putting yourself in alignment with that to access that information and that type of resource. That's where I want us to kind of stay on right now, to begin to make that shift. And so we talk about excellent seed. To be able, and I think about that, I think about kind of like an ambitious sower, and what is driving your ambition? So it's one thing, like, again, I was talking to a new client the other day, and I've actually experienced some of her product. I thought it was great. And I'm like, this is good stuff. Like, we got to get this out. This is we need more people to experience the way I've experienced it. And it was clear by midway through that conversation that she wasn't ambitious about sowing her seed. She enjoyed the fact that she had seed. She even was intrigued by, and I can't say she's all in, but she was intrigued by the possibility of making her seed excellent. But there was no ambition or drive or desire to make it excellent seed and become an ambitious sower, to make sure that there were others who were willing, who could get access to it. So it's like going to this whole concept of, if I know you, I'll tell you about it. But past the warm market aspect of this, I'm not too keen. And it could be because, one, I don't like talking to people, and that could be the case. I get fear of speaking or whatever. My energies are different. I'm good at this, not that. And so, I say to people like that, I said, well, it's one thing to, recognize that is the challenge, but are you ambitious about what you created? Because if you are, you will find a way. You'll either find something deeper within you to go out there and do it, or you will become an excellent businesswoman or businessman and begin to partner with other folks who have excellent seed, who could add value to what you have created, and not become not wallow in what you don't have, if you will. So okay, what don't I have and why don't I have it? And once you recognize what you don't have and why you don't have it, then now you get to the point of, how do I fill that void? Who do I bring in to make that work? What contracts do we need to connect and make sense for both people, both parties? So I want to stop now. We're getting close to 8 o'clock. I've rambled on for about an hour, but this is an important time, and this topic of excellent seed, and taking what we currently have right now, whether it's in your mind and spirit, or it's in your hand right now. You're actually doing it. This is part of your practice on a daily basis. Whether it be either of the two, how do we take that and raise the standard to the next level, to the place where it's going to go it's going to go past what your brain can even come up with, because you only know what you know and what you've heard and what you've seen. And we're talking about accessing the next level of your development, your growth, that is beyond your wildest dreams. Let's take a second and open up the call to anybody who is willing to ask questions or even tap into this conversation around excellent seed, why we need to do it. What's your burn point? What's your excitement point? Like any of these things that we've kind of touched on today. And if you have questions, let's open up the call. We'll open up the call now. The same thing for our folks online. Feel free to pop it into the comments here and let us know if you have any questions or comments. We will open up the call now. All right. I want to take you guys a little bit through this process on a more personal level of how I'm applying this topic of excellent seed to my own personal life and business. This is, when I think about it, I work with a lot of business owners, and some of them are true entrepreneurs. I mean, actually, some of them are serial entrepreneurs, where the entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur, is more of an investment strategy for them. Where I'm going to build something. You hear about people who are in real estate, and they do fix and flips. They go find a house, buy it for low value, go in, fix it up, increase the value, and sell it. Right? Well, imagine that same concept from a business perspective. So I'm working with serial entrepreneurs who use that same strategy in business. So they'll find a business, a cash flow producing business already that has contracts, but it has a lot of holes. So they'll buy the business on discount, go in and apply their methodology to fix it up, increase the cash flow, increase the value, the EBITDA of the business, and then put it back on the market and sell it, make a lot of money, right? And they just do that over and over and over and over again. And so you have these stages of entrepreneurs. You have people like that who are serial entrepreneurs for their investment purposes. You have business owners who, and some of these guys, I don't even want to call them entrepreneurs. Like some people are, what they call in the cash flow quadrant, just kind of a self-employed person who's kind of not employable, right? It's like, I can't work for nobody. So I gotta start my own business and just, do my own thing, kind of, and you have those folks, and they're the specialists, and they are, they're not. It's the sad part about that example is that they can't work for anybody, but they also aren't good employers because it's hard for them to teach people what they do. In many ways, they don't even want to teach them. They just want you to, support my work, right? And so, those are the folks that say, well, you own a job, right? You own your job because, if I say, hey man, let's go on vacation for 2 weeks, they're like, I can't do it, man. I gotta work, saying, like, who's gonna run the shop? So, you got those folks. Then you have these folks who are legit business owners, and they know and understand a product or service. They put all their energy into it, and they do it with the intention of building a team of people and teach them exactly how they do it. And say, hey, matter of fact, I need to go and find the smartest people, or the people with the most experience in this realm, or the people who have real energy for this type of business or service, and bring them into my world and say, listen, I know what you're doing. I saw what you're doing over there. Listen, I have great excellent seed over here, great benefits, great market, give you more autonomy. Man, you're going to thrive. We're going to pay you well. I mean, so these guys are building businesses that are going to live on for a long time. And so you have these different, various markets. And, when I think about in my time, I always reference Reginald F. Lewis a lot, because Reginald F. Lewis, before he became a business owner, he was a service provider for business owners. So he helped provide, like legal strategies to help businesses buy other businesses. And so he was in that market in the 70s, and he basically used the 70s to leverage accessing the whole world of mergers and acquisitions. And he did that for so long and said, man, it's time for me to get in the game. I got to get in the game. I can do this. I've helped other people do it. I can do it. That has been my life, especially I would say for the past decade, some before that, but definitely the last 10 years. It's just working with business owners to help them and finding all the holes that they have and getting and becoming intimate to know kind of that differentiation of entrepreneurs versus business owners versus self-employed, versus investors and serial entrepreneurs. And over that time, we've understood, and seen so many experiences where these are the voices. I can almost tell you in advance what your issues are just by looking at the company. We haven't had a conversation yet. I can almost tell you right now, here's where your challenges are, because we've seen so much of it. And so in the whole process, of creating with the Dreammakers Network, and we've started adding professional services into it because it was basically those things that I knew these business owners needed, and they didn't know where to go, and they needed a place to say, where can I go to get, financial operations? Where can I go for investment services? Where can I go for legal structure and services? Where can I go? Who should I bank with? All these different things. And so as I started making this transition into launch and Engage Wealth, which specifically is its own wealth management entity, the focus then said, okay, I want to create excellent seed. I want to create excellent seed relative to the thing I'm trying to solve for. And what I'm trying to solve for, and actually even before I say that, I wanted to create excellent seed relative to the things that got me excited, or my pain points, my energy points, if you will. The excitement, the energy, the pain, I'll just mesh that into something, and then let's go create something. And one of the earlier questions then became, well, what don't I want to do? what are the things that I do now that I don't want to do and why? And you start just piecing out, well, you know what, the things that I don't want to do, how do I still fill that void knowing that the client still needs it? In this process of creating excellent seed. So for me, there are things that I'm licensed to do that I don't want to do. And then so it became a factor of, okay, well, if I'm licensed to do it, but I don't want to do it, should I do it? Or should I even stay licensed in it? And it becomes that type of restructure. But all we're doing is just kind of playing the Rubik's Cube, right? You're just kind of saying, okay, well, let's tweak this and push that in and move that to the side because we're trying to create excellent seed. And I want to just have that conversation because as you are looking at your own things that you're doing right now, one, go back to your value set. What makes me happy? What makes me mad? How can I infuse all of that into my seed and what I'm working on right now? What am I building? And in a perfect world, what would it really look like? What am I doing now that in a perfect world I'm not doing? And should I do this myself or should I partner with somebody and outsource it? Like, begin the process of building the type of seed, the type of entity, the type of organization, the type of ministry that reflects the step you're trying to leave on this earth. That's what we're talking about. How to design excellent seed and bring it to the marketplace. And so for me, I never forget, this was this was probably, maybe 8 years ago when I was just doing 401ks. And I remember I was going after a 401k plan. And the CEO, he said, okay, great. Contact this guy and he'll get y'all set squared away. So I was like, okay. And I saw he gave me the email address and this guy worked for another company. So I'm like, well, what is this? And so I contact the guy and he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I'm controlling the this process of bringing in, people like yourselves who want to manage this 401k plan. And I was like, well, what do you do? Like, who are you? You don't work for the company, you're not part of HR. And I'm like, how are you involved in this? And how are you getting paid? Right. So now my eyes are wide open, like, and he was like, oh yeah. And I realized this guy was getting paid the same amount that if I got the business, I was going to, get paid. Right. But then I had to go do all the work. All he did was just bring, evaluate us, right? And say, okay, that one, give it to that one. I said, dude, how much you get paid on this? He said, oh yeah, I got paid $20,000 on this. Like, what? Like, I'm like, what in the world? And it was the first little light bulb. And again, that goes back to that point of there are things that you're doing right now that is great work, but there are other things happening that you don't know about. That if you knew about it, you would probably say, I need to add that to my repertoire. So if you knew about it, but how do you get to know about it? You got to get in the game. You got to get in the game. The only way you're going to know is if you're now in the process. And, because, unless you just have like some sensei who says, oh, listen, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, and some people get that. Some people have a sensei, or special mentor who just says, this is everything you need. And boom, it's like that. But for most of us, you got to get in the game to figure this stuff out, to find out the things that you don't know, get in the game so you can know it. Read, study, get it, practice, connect, ask questions, be intentional about being great. Like, we have to go to work on our own mindset around some of these, a lot of times when I get in conversation, I start using terms like excellent or ambitious or be great, or like things that are just way up there. You know, a lot of folks, especially Black folks, get very squirrely about those kind of topics, you know, because our early foundation, our early information, our grandparents and parents say, "Oh, you know, don't be conceited now, boy. You know, don't get above your britches or whatever." You know, and those things were in our mind early, and that is, you know, in many ways prepared you for mediocrity to focus on being, you know, just run of the mill, you know, not pushing the envelope. Let me just go do this and do that, and not focusing on greatness. And then, you know, you get decades down into your life, and then somebody starts talking about, hey, you need to be great. You're like, whoa, man, what you selling? You're like, what you, you know, like, wait, why are you trying to butter me up like that, man? But it is very important because, you know, I'm gonna just tell you something else. And you know, you folks who know me, I'm a glass half full guy. Like, it's half full and it's on the way. You know, it's like it's on the way to becoming full, even if it could be horrible, right? But I tell you the truth, you know, this period that we're going through, you know, the daily attacks that this new president, or this president who's back, continues this, you know, propaganda. It's DEI, or basically it used the word DEI, but he's talking about Black folks. And during the campaign, he made everybody think he was talking about transgender people. And no, stop it. It's not, you know what I'm saying? Like they will use these scary terms to try to spook people, when at the end of the day, so it's time, enough of this. You know, it's days of, you know, affirmative action and, you know, quotas for Black folks and all that stuff is over. Going back to the good old days. We're gonna make America great again, like I told you, right? And so when you take a step back and look at a lot of this, you know, we've had, you know, 50 plus years under that type of a system, if you will. And there's generations of people who don't know anything different and are not prepared in to take the next level. How do I exist in a world of this, what they quote unquote call merit-based system? Do we have ecosystems that I can provide my goods and services to and say, okay, yeah, this is our network over here, so we're good? Do we have that already rolling? And what about them? If you do have it, what's their source of income? You know, as their source of income linked back to, you know, some type of a, you know, affirmative action quota system that's going to keep their lifeline going? You know, who are your vendors and what's their source? Do we have a 100%, you know, clean ecosystem that is prepared, that is built by self-employed people who are living off of each other? You know, do we have that? And the answer is no, and not at least not in some grand national perspective. You know, big box stores. You know, we talk about the whole issue with, you know, Costco versus Target. All these different topics. Do we have our own, you know, big box store to go and say, oh, I can go and buy all the Black products I need? Do we have that? No. You know, did we boycott one, and all the Black people who was over there said, oh, your sales are down, so we're going to cut you off now. You know, so now we got to go build something for them. But how much time went by after that trying to get them and buy their stuff directly? Is that going to kick them out of business? Do we even know what their burn rate is? Like, how long do they have before they consider, oh man, we used to love that product, what happened to it? Well, y'all stopped going to the stores, and so the burn rate couldn't last longer than, you know, 60 days or 90 days, and it takes 180 days to start a new product. You know, so there's a lot packed into that. And, you know, we're at a point where, depending on how you feel about it, you know, that should be enough to get you mad and ready to do something. And we're there. we're at that point. And I'll tell you this, and we'll open up the call. I had a conversation, with let's just look at it, say a Black class conversation. And you have some folks who are some Black CEOs of large corporations. You have some Black business owners. Then you have Black workers. And then you have Black folks who are in between jobs or in poverty, if you will, all in a room having a conversation about what's going on and DEI and all these topics. Let's just say the Black CEO of the large corporation, there's rumblings now about that person being a DEI hire. And, they're trying to figure out how long they're going to keep this job before the board decides, this wasn't the best fit for us. And then you have the Black business owner, entrepreneur, whose main contract is either the government or was provided contracts to their big business because they're part of a supplier diversity program. And they said, we don't need that supplier diversity program anymore. So thank you for your time and doing business with us the past couple of years. Then you got, the Black worker who was working for the federal government or working for a government contract that was funded by the federal government. And they said, we're done with those kind of programs. So, we're going to give you an exit counselor to talk about some more career resources for you because we're doing away with this job. And then you got the folks who were in between jobs anyway and felt like, the past several decades, nothing has really worked out for them anyway. And so why do they even care about these topics of DEI and all these Trump and all whatever? Who cares? The same thing happens if the Democrat or Republican in office. It's just bad for us kind of thing. We're there. That's where we are. And this is the time and I'm just talking about it strictly from, a Black perspective because of this DEI attack and, making people walking in black skin the boogeyman again, so, or even in the case this week, we saw ICE going out into all the schools, rounding up kids and their parents. This is something that in this generation, in the past couple of generations, we haven't seen that, and not in this country. There's been a lot of talk about it, but to see it happen this week, there were students at my daughter's school, not there anymore, born in this country, but the parents weren't. So they're gone, and where are they going? So I highlight that to say we are in transition. This is a restructure that's happening, in this country. It's foreign to some people, and some people are excited about it and don't even know why they're excited about it. It's like they're excited about it until they realize, like, whoa, this is affecting me too. I didn't realize that that was going to happen. So we have to be in the spirit now of creation. We can't be asleep at the wheel. Especially for those of us with children, grandchildren, or trying to have families and thinking about this place being your home, because I've heard some folks say, man, I wouldn't bring a child into this world. I said, not here. And maybe I can find somewhere else to go, but I can't. There are a lot of folks who are like, I'm not bringing a child into it because of the level of, anxiety that they have on a personal level about the day-to-day. But I think it's important for us to be clear and honest about where we are, how does it affect you and your family and your goals and objectives, and be willing to say what you're going to do about it. What are you going to do about it? And for me, as a glass half full guy, it's time to go all in on creating excellent seed. I think about people of the past and tap into time periods when this was the thing. Who were the winners during those times when in an economically, segregated society? Who were the winners? Who were the ones that were builders and were, providing the resources for families and creating the jobs and, ran the organizations and kept the community tight? Was able to create kind of a network and an ecosystem in multiple markets. Like, who are those people? And I can tell you, going back to the earlier point, the blessing of what we've been doing over the past 12 years in this network is that when I have this same conversation with someone, I can walk into this library behind me and pull book after book after book of folks who were able to hold the line, who were able to build and grow, who were able to educate and were the masters of their time in an economically and socially segregated society. The information's here. We got it. This is it. I mean, we can dive deep. I mean, and thankfully we have. In this time period since we've had this network. So the information's fresh, the information's here. Let's put it to work. All right, I'm opening up the call. Anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts, observations on this topic? I know we've kind of laid out a lot, but I think it's just so important, as we've touched this topic on current events, current things that are happening fresh in our thoughts and minds and things that we're dealing with right now, with our personal goals and objectives, but what is needed of us as it's time to scale, if you will, our goals. It's time to really take what we've committed ourselves to the next level. We'll take a second and open up the call now.
So Byron, you mentioned ecosystems. Everyone is Kai. And this is something that I've actually been writing a proposal for the last, it feels like a year. I've been working on a proposal for the last year for an agency where I live. And that's been my methodology and what I'm proposing for them to do is to create this ecosystem that will support a problem, an ongoing societal issue, but being intentional about rebuilding people and youth organizations, standing organizations, and youth programs that already exist to meet the need of the clients that we serve. And so the idea as it pertains to excellence in Black folks and people who feel themselves impacted by what's going on, it's not happening in isolation. So with that being said, it's going to be so important for us to be still intentional around the tribe, the people we have in our circles, who is our community, what are our community needs, and make sure, again, that we can meet the needs within our spaces. And so we talked about ICE. So one of our organizations here has been doing workshops specifically to make sure that neighbors know what to do when ICE shows up for one of your neighbors. How can you respond as someone to support that family, keeping track of when they came, where they're going, asking some questions. They have a whole thing. I'll go through it next week. But it's important for us to be really clear about how we're interacting with one another and not allowing fear to stop us from meeting the needs of others. Well, I heard the good soil today, just making sure that we have the stuff. We are already good seed, but it's absolutely where we spend our time, our energy, and what it's going to take for that to be watered and for it to be able to actually grow. So just really growing and building these relationships and being intentional around making sure you have folks in your circle who have the same values and drive as you, and we're also coming to a space of positivity and solution. Some people want to sit in a space of negativity and woe is me. Those are people I cannot have in my space right now. Who want to have CNN on 7, because then I find myself angry and volatile versus creative and focusing on the things in which are in my local control.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we think about the things I have complete control over, let us do that, and let us spend our energy with those who have that same mindset, so that we're not sucked in and sucked dry based upon everything that we cannot control.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I mean, you just hit the head on the topic of ecosystem. I'll be completely honest with you. Building the ecosystem is the next phase of this topic. You know, and I've, you know, I think about, I mean, this month and just experiencing all that we've seen this month. I said, how do we go from the beginning and start the process of building? And step one, what is your seed? What do you have? What are you doing that is part of your purpose and part of your work that can add value and help address opportunities and issues? What is that? Then we look at what that is. How do we raise it to the next level? So we take the seed that you have and make it excellent. 2, once we now know that folks are doing that, then how do we create an ecosystem where we're all connected to excellent seed in various parts of our social structure? You know, from business to mental health to education to health and wellness to, you know, all of the things that we all do in this network. But then folks who we know who aren't part of the network, that we can help add value and provide them with an ecosystem platform, you know, so that it's not just a community thing, but it's a thing that is supporting communities. You know, when we go back to, you know, let's just say, you know, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, you know, economic and social segregation was community-based in many ways. And they didn't have the technology of our time to, you know, only access excellent seed in their location, you know, for, you know, where we can say, man, there's some excellent seed over in, you know, Utah, where some brothers got a network over there and we're going to buy some of their stuff, you know, or there's some folks up in Philly who has this going on and we're going to access their stuff, right? And so we didn't have that luxury back then, but we have it now. And being in a position to understand and create a platform for the people to know who Dr. Jones is and the work that is happening in her markets, and how do we add that information to some of the voids that are here in Florida and Maryland, and, you know, and so we have to really take each of these areas seriously in terms of how we approach building. You know, one being identifying the people who are focused. Like I'll give you another example. I know some folks, and especially going back to your point around, you know, folks living in fear and anxiety. I know some folks who are extremely talented in certain areas that could really be an asset to my business. But because they are, from a mental health perspective, they're not there mentally to take this seed and make it excellent, I can't employ them. I can't bring them into this network. I can't, you know, we need excellent seed, not excellent potential. We need excellent seed. And so if the fact is that we know people who are very good at what they do, and they just may be going through something right now, maybe mental health or financial or whatever the case may be, we have to have a process to, from a personal development project, they need to be on the calls. Like we need some one-on-one time to say, let me show you something. that may lift that gray cloud from you. Let me show you what's possible. Let me show you what we could do with what you already have in your hand. And here's why what you have in your hand is more valuable than you think. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we have to get to that point where when we talk about ecosystem, it starts at the very beginning, even in youth and working with the youth and showing them what's possible for them in this environment, you know, all the way up to legacy, you know. So we have to be very intentional about making excellency the main objective and creating an excellent ecosystem. And so it's we're just at that point. And it's, you know, as you mentioned, Ty, you know, it's a lot of people are paying attention. You know, I was so mad, man. I the first week of Trump's administration, I was like, oh my God, I remember how this used to be when he was in office. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was like, and it was just so much, just, you know, things that just sound outlandish and uncouth and just all, I'm like, what? You know, all that stuff. I'm like, man, we were away for that for 4 years and now we're back at it again. You know, and then you got all the allies and people saying, well, this is what he really meant. No, I'm telling you what the man just said. You heard what he said. This is what he really meant, though. No. Nobody's, especially now. It's just, so that kind of stuff can run you crazy, needless to say. And there is a lot of fear and anxiety out there, particularly for people of color. You know, it's just a fact. And white women need to pay attention too. You know, because this man's regime is about the white man. It's the reemergence of the white man. Listen, I'm trying to tell you, this is not about, and you know, because a lot of the, you know, most of the people, you look at the folks who voted for Trump, most of them were white women. So it was, oh yeah, we love it. Like, okay. Yeah, so don't be progressive. You can't be progressive in that kind of mindset because it's, you know, make America great again. Got to figure out what year they're talking about. And how were things for anybody who was non-white male? We have to be honest and clear about where we are now. And that's just where it is. And that's the propaganda. That's what's being pushed. And we have to plan and be prepared for it. But the good thing is it's a crisis, and you never let a crisis go to waste. And we're at that point. You know, that's the one thing about, you know, it's like that catch-22. I remember back, 2016. What's his name? I don't know, man. One of those commentators, and he was like, man, I hope, and this is when, you know, Trump was running against Hillary. He said, I hope Trump wins, man. And everybody was, you know, it was a brother, you know, he was like, everybody's eyes went up. He's like, I hope Trump wins. He's like, because if Hillary wins, then black people gonna sit back and relax and think she's gonna take care of things for us. You know, and we're not gonna organize, and we're not gonna get focused, and we're not gonna, you know, we're just gonna sit back and say, yeah, just like we did with Obama. We sat back and relaxed because Obama was up there. All right, we good. So I hope he wins just so we can get organized, right? And you know what, I definitely didn't hope he won, but I got his point. You know, his point is, you know, we're used to having a savior. You know, we go to church every Sunday talking about the savior. And so, which says I don't have to do nothing. There's a lot of folks in church who will pray hard all day in church. And when it's time for you to activate your own faith that you've been praying about, you're, you know, a sitting duck. Won't move, won't get up and just feel confident in that the prayer that you gave, that God gave you the strength to go do it. You know, and so that's us as a people in many ways. And so we're at a point now where we can't look to politics to do any of this stuff. We gotta be intentional and strong on faith about what it is that we were called to do in this life, and go do it and create something that our children and grandkids will be a resource for them when they're our age, so we got to do that. So yeah, I'm with you, sister. Especially on this topic of the ecosystem, it's more than important, and we can do it. I mean, when I say we, meaning the folks of us in this network through the Dreammakers Network can create an ecosystem that can be bigger than anything that any of us have ever thought could be possible. We got it right here within the people who are on this network right now. I'm more than confident in that. And now we just have to play the role of organizing what we're going to create and something that is truly of value to the folks who need it. And the folks who need it is us and everybody who we know. So I say it's worth us beginning the process of talking about these topics outside of the mastermind call, because when we dive in on this topic of the mastermind, we want to refresh our thoughts and our energies on what we can do and what can be created from a like-minded perspective in personal development, and keep our energies focused on what it is that we're working on. But we can definitely create another resource for us to come together that is very practical in how we are creating Voltron, if you will. So, bringing all of our unique talents and skills and resources together to provide that type of resource that is beneficial for everybody. So count me in, sister. Anybody else? Let's open up the call. Anybody else have any questions, comments, thoughts, observations? And for folks online, shoot us in the comment section. We'll open up the call now. Well, I'll say to you folks, this is the beginning. This is the beginning of something great. I am not fearful at all. Thankful for the opportunity to build and create. Thankful that we've been putting in the work over the years and are prepared and have resources. And now is the time, to truly take a step back, look in your hand, say, what is this seed that I have? And ask yourself, is it good? Most of you will say, yeah, I'm good at this. What I'm doing right now, I'm good at. What I'm doing right now, it's working. You can look at your seed and the thing that you provide to the marketplace and to your people and say, I'm doing a good job at this. What is required, though, is we need to make it excellent seed. We have to go from good seed to excellent seed. And this is the point. This is where we are. So I really want folks, after we finish up today, to just take a step back and talk to yourself. Take a look at what you're working on and what you're building right now, where your current time is being spent. And figure out, what do I need to do to take my seed and what I'm building right now and make it useful beyond my comprehension, beyond what your brain has experienced or heard about. How do you elevate what you're doing to be exposed to what's available to you, but you just didn't know about it? And I will tell you, that's going to come through a combination of one, really going to work in building and expanding what you're currently doing right now, and having and making sure that the goals that you have are big. Because here's the piece: when you have big goals, you're already trying to access what you don't have right now. So that is the way you do it. The fact of accomplishing those goals will get you access to the realm of things that are happening at that level. Right now, you're not at that level. You're looking at your goals and saying, this is what I want us to achieve. But when you achieve that, you're now in a new space. You're now in a new realm. I mean, and this is proof. Think about what you're currently doing right now. The things that you're currently doing right now, at some point in your life, was a goal. The information that you have right now would have been extremely useful to you 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, I'll tell you, just to be clear on some stuff, there's some strategies that I currently use right now with clients in portfolio management that if I knew about it 2 years ago, I mean, I just want to give you some real practical piece on this. There's some things that I'm doing currently right now for my clients that I learned within the last 2 years that's added great value. If I personally knew about it 2 years ago, my whole financial situation would have been a different ball game than it is right now. So, but because foot stayed on the gas trying to pursue goals and accomplish goals, once you get that goal, you accomplish the goal, now you get access to information, to things that are possible that you didn't know existed. That's why goal setting is so important, because you continue to elevate yourself past where you were. So the information and the access, the opportunities, the people, the resources, it's out there. But the only way you're going to get it, either one or two ways, like I said, either you get some, benevolent sensei who's going to show up and say, I'm going to give you everything you need. Or you go to work on your goals and you pursue you dream big, have big goals, go after them, stay focused, don't be distracted, and realize the more every day you're making a step up and a step up, and every day, oh, wow, what's that? Who is that? What's this? Like, I had something yesterday just happened to me, man. I'm like, what? Like, it was just yesterday, I found out about a whole new capital resource that will be available to my clients. If you guys knew the stuff I do every day when it comes to trying to find the right type of capital for businesses, because one company who has capital to support a business, they may want to support this one, but they don't only want to touch that one. You say, oh, no. I'm sorry, Deese, I can't help you with that one. That's nothing I can do on that. But that one, though, send me more of them. Send me more of them, and I'm all in, right? And that's the kind of stuff, right? And so then yesterday I get a email, and I was working on some other stuff. I was like, what's this? I clicked on, I was like, because you did that, you now qualify to get access to these guys. Well, who are these guys? Like, and where were they last week when I was trying to work on this? So my whole point is that as long as your foot is on the gas, working toward the goals that you've already set for yourself, as long as your foot on the gas, you are going to make progress every day. And that each day you will get closer and closer. And actually, I shouldn't say closer. Each day you're going to get access to new stuff that wasn't in your view before. And that is how you expand and become and know in your knowledge base. Because again, we can only move by what we know. And when I say know, meaning we've heard about it at some point, we've read it, or we've done it. Somebody told us about something, like that's what our brain has access to. But when we get past that point, when Every day we're still working on the goals. We're being teachable and coachable every day. We don't have the spirit of I got it and I know it all, but you're learning from your clients, you're learning from your service providers, you're learning from your mentors, and if you have folks like that, you're learning. And that's what's going to help us in this process of creating excellent seed so we can create excellent ecosystems. So we can, why do that? So we can create a much more self-reliant society. And really think about this, because of much of what we're talking about is, I hope, I'm not old, so I hope a lot of this happens in my lifetime to be able to see it and, experience it and all of that. But what we're really in many ways doing is building sustainable infrastructures and ecosystem for our kids, our grandkids, their peers, getting out and mentoring with these kids and spending time with these middle schoolers and listening to them, seeing where they are, seeing, kind of trying to tap into their true, like getting past kind of the surface stuff and just like, who are these kids? And so, man, that, just listening. And once you get past kind of the normal teenage stuff, early teenage stuff, and then get past the environment and society that they live in this social media world, then you get a chance to see who these kids really are. And I should add one more layer of them having to, be in a product of whatever's happening in their household, good or bad. That's their reality. To get past that too, and then finally get to this God-created being that is a youth, to see what their innate natural plight looks like where they're going and what are they pouring out on a daily basis to people, and say, we're going to start from there. We're going to start here. We're going to start the work of building and getting you to feel confident in that inner person there, knowing that all these other layers are still you're going to be faced with every day. But let's go back to that inner person, that God created person, that you're going to double down your confidence in that uniqueness and build from there. And it's great to be able to tap into these young folks, because they are literally the future. I remember when we were kids and they would say, Whitney Houston sang the song, I believe the children are our future. And we were children, like, oh yeah, I think so too. But now we're not children. We look back and say, well, who are the children? Let's go connect with them and be intentional about helping them to find their confidence and build from there. And I just, I look at people like A.G. Gatson. A lot of people may not know who A.G. Gatson is, but A.G. Gatson was one of the wealthiest African Americans during the Civil Rights Movement. So a lot of the, when the Dr. King and they were in Birmingham and they got Bull Connor came out and put the hose on them and got the whole line, they were meeting and staying at A.G. Gatson's hotel. These were the people who were helping to underwrite the movement, if you will, to go out and continue to work and helping to pay bills for these guys and providing loans. They had the banks, they had the hotels and all that kind of insurance companies. There's a playbook that's out there for us. We just have to read it and apply that playbook to our current time, but make it, in whatever way we can, make whatever your goals are life work, not just transactional, I got a quick win, boom. If you can infuse these wins into your life work, then now we're onto something. And that's what I'm trying to do. It's like, all right, great. I'm in the right mechanism to make good money. So how can I include that and its progress into my life work at the same time? These are things that when we talk about building excellent seed, that has to be a part of the equation too, because we don't want nobody going broke, trying to create excellent seed, right? So, but that's why the network is so important. And if you have those kind of questions and concerns, say, Dees, let's grab some time. Jump on the calendar. Go to dreammakersnetwork.org. Get on the calendar. Go to the new website, engage-wealth.com. And we can talk financial services specifically. We can talk, how to incorporate what you're doing into cash flow and more cash flow, and how to invest the money and what to put it in, and how to be diversified, and really have a long-term generational wealth objective. We can do that. So that's engage-wealth.com. Get on the calendar, man. Let's build something, yo. I mean, I've never been more. I know I probably say this a lot on my calls, but this time that we're in right now is a generational time. We're just so happen to be living during a very transition period in our country, a big restructure period. And, it's going to create energy, as I said, fearful energy, anxiety energy, or excitement energy. But whatever, at the end of the day, we got to use that energy to really add value to what we're doing to create excellent seed. I'm going to tell you, we're going to talk about this topic more. We talked about the parable of the sower. I really advise you guys to dive deep again on that scripture. I have the John C. Maxwell Bible, which he goes into a lot more detail in explaining, some of these scriptures and pulling out more from a personal development perspective, kind of his viewpoints on these scriptures. So it's very helpful for calls like this to be able to have that type of commentary and messaging to support the scriptures. But this is just an important time, folks. And let's just be on purpose, and we can spend time and enjoy each other. And, we need to do that, but this is our time to be on purpose. So anybody have any questions or comments before we finish up for the day? Brother Morris.
Hey, man.
How you feeling, man?
I'm I'm good, man. Good, man. We're here. We're making it happen, man. Late nights, early calls. Thing I love. I just listen to the call, and I always appreciate all your insights and time everybody shared today. And I didn't even, until I really heard, you talk about it and go back and forth and really mold it around in my mind, from the personal development and the dream makers kind of standpoint, what's required in our current season that we're happening, with all the stuff. I was just thinking man, thanks the Lord for personal development and just even opening your eyes to even go in that direction and get this perspective of a means of a way to go, because I do hear a lot of the people who are in this time, who are super intelligent, and capable people, just kind of in a tailspin.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
With what was it? And I'm like, wow, these are people who are, you were talking about it earlier part, like basically described it as wanting to work with somebody and having talent, but basically they're not being in the right frame of mind to get on board with whatever project you had going. That's kind of the way I'm paraphrasing what you were alluding to, right? And there are so many people who fit that mold who are, I'm just saying that they are like super intelligent people, and for years and decades you've looked at them and seen them and interacted with them, and they've been on point, in so many ways, and there's just like a tailspin happening. You can just see them grasping that stuff. I'm like, having your perspective and that personal development, that dream maker perspective that says, okay, now it's time to get busy. It's just a refreshing, more than refreshing. Refreshing isn't even a good enough term for it. Maybe it is, but like that real refreshing, that real like good drink of water after that hard run, like actual, not the surface refreshing, but like that real, you know what I'm saying? It's a cleanse. And then when I was listening and thinking, I was like, wow, I'm just very grateful for the fact that one, we have the network, and two, that we're working to that this thing in these types of scenarios, you don't automatically get caught up in a whirlwind one way or another. One way or another, you're able to net from an internal standpoint, and you have a strong compass. And that's a very powerful thing. In regular life is powerful, but like when crisis or perceived crisis is occurring, you just don't fall for it one way or another. So I was it's just and hearing you talking today, and I had almost forgot, but because I detached from the day-to-day updates on the potential crisis that we might be in. You know what I'm saying? I hear you talk about it, I'm like, that's right. There are some maniac things occurring right now. You know what I'm saying? On both sides.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it feels good to know that there are people out there that just are not. You know what I'm saying? And then that are not only just staying the course, but also are fueling and using that that wherewithal to push. Like the term was ecosystem today, to push their ecosystem and feed their ecosystem and move it forward, and then having that good the good parable of the seed thing to kind of tie it together, which is one of my favorites for all the different reasons. And the idea of the excellent seed, which I was like, okay, let's talk about the seed itself. A lot of times you talk about where it lands and the sower. You want to talk about the sower than the seed that you hear. How are you sowing the seed? The assumption is that the seed is good. Okay, you got good seed. Now what? Well, where are we gonna put it? Where are we gonna take it? Where's it gonna land? Oh, this is going further ground. Don't worry about. You going to all that. How much seed you going? But to get into the idea of the excellent seed, making that piece topic for the day, I thought was very good. So I was just tired from being out all night, but still like grateful for the whole thing. So I'm excited, and I'm just grateful for everybody in the network. And I'm gonna go and make my. I got that GMO, so I got that genetically modified seed. So I've been in here working with it, trying to grow them oversized strawberries in my life. That can't be natural. No,
it's fully natural.
It's in the lab.
I naturally created it.
I made this, man. You're not gonna find this in nature. I did this myself. So here we go. But anyway, that's it, man.
I mean,
as usual.
Yeah. I mean, but I think about it. I tuned in last night to what was going on at La Familia. I said, it's Friday night, man. I said, this ain't no karaoke. I was like, this is not karaoke. Like, who is this sister? I was like, well, they really jazzed up for karaoke night.
Handing out roses in a Gucci outfit. Yeah.
I was like,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was like, when she got dancers behind, I said, is this karaoke night? I was like, no, this is not karaoke night.
No.
Yeah. So, and again, man, but this is what I'm talking about. I mean, listen, I'm like, we got the resources, man. We got it. And I will be honest with you, Paz, to be completely honest with you, and this is kind of like, I wasn't even going to use the word ecosystem until Tysana said it. Because I really wanted to focus on this excellent seed piece, but all this leads to the ecosystem. And the parable of the sower, that's why I said this had to be a multi-call kind of thing, because the parable of the sower is the process of building the ecosystem. Like that actually, that is the process of building the ecosystem. And so, you know, precursors of what the next call gonna be about. You know, because we got to dive into that. We have to dive into the parable of the sower and what an ecosystem really means practically, you know, by saying, well, Dees does this. They have, you know, Paz got the resource over there. Ty got the resource over there. Danny got this, you know, Adirake has that. Like Bonnie has this, like, and we got all these different things going. And, you know, a lot of times what we see happen, truthfully, is that we start creating ecosystems without excellent seed. You know, so with people, we all linked, we all connected, but we're not given the best product. We're not given the best service. We're not providing the most impactful resource, you know. And so because what we have to create at this stage of the game, it has to be something that will sustain itself after we're gone. It can't be about us, the person. We have to just be the creators. You know, I talk a lot about Andrew Carnegie, you know. I mean, TIAA-CREF, he created TIAA-CREF back in the early, you know, he died in 1919. So actually, I think about it, I think TIAA-CREF was created by his estate. So it was created after he died for the purpose of providing teachers with a pension. So teachers could, you know, when they stopped teaching, they could still have income. That was an issue, you know, at that point in time. And it's one of the largest financial service companies in the world today, over 100 years after this man has died. We have to have a mindset that is thinking along those lines. Like, how do we create institutions with our excellent seed? That's the point. And if we're thinking about, if we're in the institution building business, then we're going to be okay, right? The thing is, a lot of people aren't thinking that. They're not thinking about building institutions, thinking about, how do I pay my bills? How do I do the tactical stuff right here in front of our face? The current stuff that's happening in front of us. And so there's no time. I don't have time to be thinking about institution building. What you talking about, man? They cut off the lights yesterday, man. You know, so that I'm just pointing out the reality of a lot of this, you know, but I just saw Tysana's post, okay. But we have to be in that mindset. So that's where we're headed in this next couple conversations, in flushing out the parable of the sower and other parables that we all know. It's all in our brains. And you say, well, why do you use parables? You know, there's a whole section, there's a whole scripture paragraph on the purpose of parables, right? And so, and I, you know, I have to be honest. You know, it's like, prior to now, people who know me and say, well, Deese is real pro-black. He's all in for the people kind of thing. And some people say at his own fault. I had one of my guys, the other day was like, when I sent them the information on the website and Engage Wealth and all that, it was like, wow, man, Deese ain't out there just trying to help poor black people. He said, he's like, oh, he actually is trying to make some money, but, and so prior to this day and age that we're living into, I almost felt like I needed to, communicate the difference between, being pro-black, but not like a race guy, who's like, yeah, I'm pro this and I hate y'all kind of thing, because that's not me. Anybody who knows me, that's not me. But I do see the disinvestment and the attacks. Well, now we're at a point now it's just as bold and blunt as ever, of who cares about black people in America? Who cares about Hispanic people in this country? Who cares about people of color? Who cares? I mean, who cares about anything that's not white male? That's where we are. And I just, not on my watch. I'm just at that point in my life, not on my watch. No. Sometimes you just got to have a point in your life where you're like, no. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but no, not on my watch. What you going to do about it? You got to create something that people can access, can believe in, can resource, and that's not one-off, man. We cannot have these one-off things anymore. We have to be in the spirit of building institutions that will be here generationally. And, so, I highlight the fact that every call we have, beginning, 12 years, 12 and a half years, it'll be 13 years, 13 and a half years, 14 years, just keep it going, and build something, so build something and do it on purpose. Some days you don't feel that well, but then as soon as we get here and if people start pouring their energy on you, next thing you know, you're feeling good. Think about this 12 and a half years. There have been so many calls where I was like, you know what? I'm about to say, but we're not doing it today. Not doing it today. But as soon as we got on here and the topic was put out and people started talking about their stuff, and whatever was going on before just kind of went on out the door, and because the energy was focused on our unique, like-minded objective to create a personal development wave of energy over all of us. And that's what happened. So we can take that to a whole new level. We can make that an institution. And so when I sent you that text message the other day, I said, we got to get back to the foundation of personal development, the resources of personal development, the strategies of personal development, and make it as the foundation force behind your professional development objectives and your community development objectives, ecumenical, whatever your work is, whatever your practice is, if it's undergirded with personal development and you feeling as if the work that you're doing is God-given, purpose-driven work, then now we're on to something, but if you're working and you're practicing every day, but you don't feel like you're being fulfilled in that work, that is adding any value to your purpose and reasons for living, then that's a problem. And I know a lot of people like that. So we got to be in a position when we connect with people and we get that impression that energy from them that they're not moving in purpose, that we can be in, we have the tools and the quick resources to, and just fresh off the dome kind of thing to say, check this out. I see what you're doing, but check this out, and think about it this way, or, whatever the case, whatever that personal development, pocket you have in your mind and in your spirit, that you're willing and ready to use it. When these folks, you run into people who, as Paz mentioned earlier, who are talented, smart, fresh, but not working in purpose, not moving in purpose. And it will guide you, man. In any room, it will guide you. Even some of the people who are you would deem on the surface some of the most important people, some of the most whatever people. If you're somebody who's moving with a purpose-driven intentionality, and you know how to connect with other purpose-driven people, you can identify the folks who aren't quickly. You can identify the people who are hanging on by a thread, even though they may be the quote unquote the person in charge in the room who called the meeting or whatever the case. You can sniff it out fast, right? If you already are backed and undergirded with the spirit of personal development. So we're at that point now where we have to be that level, as we're trying to build and create and address the time that we live in. We're at that point. That's just where we are. So let's move and be prepared and make it work. All right, good people. It's time to go. But let's jump on a meeting or something, man. Go, like I say, go to the new website, engage-wealth.com. Go to dreammakersnetwork.org. Let's join, schedule time, ask questions, talk about what you're working on, strategy. Listen, this is a fruitful time. And there's cool things happening among all the stuff that's being marketed, on television and all of that. So let's work on purpose. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you later. Have a good evening. See you later. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.